Welcome back to a very special episode of the Midtown Madness podcast with Peter Hale, Zach Miller. I'm Zach Miller, and as you can see, I'm joined live and in person for the first time on the show by Peter Hale. Pete, it's gonna be interesting. We're gonna kind of, I don't know. I think somebody asked me, they're like, what happens if it's just weird?
I mean, it's gonna be a little weird the first time because we're so used to doing it our way. We've been doing this basically a year now, remotely over Zoom
and staring directly into a camera right in front of our face, and now we've got to So we're Pete's live in St. Louis. When'd you get in? How was the trip?
Trip's been good. We got in Friday night. Came in with my family, my wife and my two young kids, and just doing holiday stuff with the family. Met my new nephew. My sister just had a kid 2 weeks ago, so we met him. Hung out with their daughter, my niece. My brother's in town from Richmond, Virginia, so we're just kind of doing a little early Christmas weekend. And luckily, it lined up with a big Bills game, so that worked out well.
Yeah, this almost seems disingenuous. I don't know why. I just feel like we're like the guy on YouTube that's like, it's your boy Zach, back talking to you about such and such. I just feel kind of odd. It's an odd feeling.
Well, it's because we also met up last night a couple of times at the game, and
by the way, I'm still hungover from last night. I woke up and thought I was dying.
That's one benefit of traveling with two young kids, is it kind of keeps you honest. I don't get too out of control when they're around. But yeah, we met up at the game. We met up with the West Pine Bills guys. It was pretty great.
Yeah. We tried to get them to take a picture. They wanted to remain anonymous. I told them we could throw on the PFT commenter glasses on them, but they still declined our request. They're great guys. I know them personally. I have a lot of interactions with them. Big movie guys too. They love posting about movies all the time as well. What'd you think of the atmosphere last night though? It was pretty wild. I actually I spent a half standing up at the top of my section because we started winning and I was a little stitious. I was not going back to my seat.
I may have blown that actually because I did move around a little. I sat most of the game in 102. It's my good friend Tim Kleinschmidt's family's tickets, and he had a couple extras for the game, so my brother and I went with him. And then he was in a box for a little bit with a law firm that he works with at work. I swung over to see some friends of mine, the Giovannis, in section 118, and when I sat with them, it happened to be the part in the second half when we went on a huge run. And so we're up, I guess, 12 by the time that I left and went back over to my seats. And they were like, "Hey, man, if this goes south, you got to come back over here." And I honestly, and I went over to the other seats, and my brother and Tim said the same thing. They're like, if the momentum shifts, you got to go back over there. But I stayed, and I apologize, everyone.
Yeah, I got a little stick for talking about potential going on the court if we win, and I was being yelled at, I think, at one point. By the way, the two dudes I ended up standing at the top of 108 with. I'm sorry, I wish I could remember you guys' names. I have very little recollection of anything after the game ended. So, they were awesome and super fun. And there was a group of just we were all just being. It was very old school. You remember when I was a kid? I'd stand at the top in the wheelchair access, in 115 or whatever, in Scottrade.
Yeah. So
it was a little nostalgic for me to stand at the top of the section, and then standing at the game was a little bit harken back to student days. Yeah. So it was I got my nostalgia fix in as well, and it was just a great atmosphere altogether. I thought the whole new process with the check-in and everything. I don't know if people knew about the check-in, but that was actually, I forgot about the check-in now that I'm thinking about it, because I could have showed them that, but I had to show. I pulled out my card and my ID.
It didn't seem to be a huge time saver in the end, because you would still show them your ID, and like you would still just show them your either the hard copy or the photocopy of your Vax card.
Yeah.
So it was you were showing them something, regardless. So it wasn't just like there was a fast lane or anything.
Yeah, I did kind of like I came in from the side from the highway side, and I started at one gate and there was a line and I just was like gonna keep walking and seeing what the fastest way, and I ended up going in the main entrance, and I thought that went pretty well.
Yeah.
The atmospheres. It always seems like these games, like, if it's a shame because we can't get like the rowdy Christmas time crowd in the seats and the students. We can only get, like, it was pretty rowdy in the student section. I thought the student section was nice.
They just finished finals, and there were a lot more of them there than I expected. Overall, the crowd was much bigger than I expected, just given what we've seen with attendance so far this year. And actually, there were a lot more Auburn fans there than I anticipated as well. I don't know if that was a lot of... Yeah, I don't know.
I thought there were too. Yeah, there were a lot. I'm surprised they didn't go home, the students. Somebody asked me if it was going to sell out, and I was like, that didn't even cross my mind.
No.
I was like, but it was, it looked like it
pretty
could
close.
have.
It was pretty close.
One more blitz of, maybe if it's 2019.
Right.
I think it sells out.
I think so.
I think if that's all things being equal,
I agree
2019, I think it sells out. But we got a game to talk about. The action on the court was a lot of fun, at least up until 7 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And we can get into that, and I think people are very upset about this. If this wouldn't have happened at Belmont and UAB, I think people would be a little less upset.
Yeah.
But it did. But I think there's much more that actually happened on the court that contributed to it, rather than just coaching and slowing the game down. But let's talk about the guys. Terrence Hargrove. I think this was his best game as a Billiken so far.
He was awesome, and it was really on both ends too. Because in addition to having a really nice offensive game, I think he finished with 17 and 7. Yeah, in a block, a few steals. He played great defense on Jabari Smith, who he had almost the whole game.
Did that occur to you that he would? As far as length, yes.
Yeah, on the way into the game, Tim and I had talked about that as a possibility, putting him on Smith. We knew we were going to have a disadvantage in terms of length at just about every position. But yeah, once you saw it, it kind of made sense. Hargrove did hit one big three, and he missed 4 others. But other than that, he had just an awesome game.
It was the back-to-back with Gibson.
That's right.
The place. The roof almost blew off on
that. At that point, I don't think we had hit a 3 yet, and then those guys go back to back. And I think Nesbit's was not long after that, I think Collins was right after that.
Yeah,
they were all kind of in that same stretch. But regardless, Hargrove had an awesome game, 35 minutes, and on both ends was just marvelous.
Yeah, one thing that I thought was weird is if you told me that Jordan Nesbit had a bad game, I'd say what? And now I'm looking at the stats, and he kind of had a rough game. Statistically, he had a rough game, but there were so many where his steals, his defense, and his hustle was it made up. I thought for his poor shooting night, and he made a couple of really outstanding plays that probably overshadowed his 3 for 13 night, his 1 for 6 from 3.
3 for 13 is way worse than I thought. 1 for 6, if you had asked me about 3, I would have guessed 1 for 4.
Yeah.
And 3 of 13, I would have thought is more like 3 of 9 or something. So that really surprised me because, and I had talked to people about this during the game. He made so many hustle plays. Mm-hmm. He just creates so much. I don't want to use the term havoc because I don't want to.
It's such a buzzword now.
I don't want to infringe on anybody's brand across the conference here, but he did create a lot of chaos for them at both ends. He's always, even if he doesn't come up with the ball, he's just in the mix on every play.
Yeah.
I love the way he plays, and he's a freshman. He's gonna have nights like this that aren't very efficient. And yeah, I am kind of shocked, really looking at that number in the box score. But I actually thought he was pretty
defensively.
pretty
He was
overall.
outstanding,
Yeah.
and I think one of the wild things is he when he steals the ball, he doesn't tip it.
Yeah,
He catches it in his chest.
That's right.
That's where he's stealing the ball, and
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
he wants the possession. He's a really unselfish player too, and I think that's something that always gets.
Yeah, everybody kind of. I think it's an attitude, like the way he carries himself is, he plays with an edge emotionally. Yeah. I think people read that as selfish.
Well, the only time that I think, the only time that you could call it that is really, there were a couple times where he had like a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2, and he kept it, and either wound up getting it tipped out or fouled or whatever, rather than either converting or passing. Because there were a couple times where he had, like, say, an open Jimerson in the corner or something like that, on a transition play. But overall, no, I think he's a really unselfish player, and I think he does a lot of little things that don't show up in the box score.
Yuri Collins.
Yeah.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Almost a triple-double.
I didn't know. I had no idea. I mean, his rebounding was unbelievable. I mean, 12 rebounds for the smallest man on the court.
I think it was the under-8 media in the first half, and I was like, look at that. So, like, to my brother sitting next to me, I'm like, the smallest guy on the floor has 6 rebounds. He has, like, I think it was actually earlier than that. But, and then after a while, when it became clear, it was like, wait a minute, he's got a double-double. And then Tim was like, all right, how many assists does he have? He looks it up, and he had 6 at the time. He wound up with a couple more after that. But, yeah, he was outstanding again. He did have some turnovers in this game, more than you'd like to see. But a lot of that just has to do with, I think, just how this game went overall. It didn't feel like he was forcing things or really making bad decisions in this game.
I rewatched the game today.
Yeah.
And God bless the anonymous source that gave us Synergy login. The game, a lot of people at home missed this. But some of Yuri Collins' most ridiculous plays were in that first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
His ability to make people jump is near the rim is incredible.
Right.
Like, how many times did, like, Auburn guys go up to swat him and he just was like, no.
Yeah.
And then just turn that way and go up and in. Like, he did that 3 or 4 times. And I think somebody else did that too. But I think Yuri Collins was the one who did it, like, twice.
He really does have great timing and instincts on that kind of stuff. That really is what it's all about with him too, going to the rim, because if he's going to score there, being the smallest guy on the floor typically, or one of the smallest guys on the floor, it's all about knowing how to pick his spots, right? It's not like he's got this kind of Nate Robinson small guy explosiveness where he can beat somebody at the rim like that. He's got to be smart about his spots, and when he can stop and start like that and make guys bite, he can create for himself. And yeah, you're right, it did happen a lot in the first half, not to mention when he threaded a needle and had one of his Gibson Jimerson backdoor passes. That was beautiful.
I missed that one because we were talking at halftime, and you left, and I go, wait, he just ran off. And then I look up and I go, oh no, they started.
Well, he had one in the first half as well.
It was the Linton where he spun it.
Yeah.
The curveball.
Yeah, right. That one too.
Which Avery Johnson just went ape shit over.
Yeah.
He thought that was just the craziest thing.
Right.
I think Yuri's rebounding in this game was a testament to what the Billikens want to do on the defensive boards. Boxing out and the ball hits the floor. I think a lot of it was the ball hitting the floor or it kind of just going to him because he's there and nobody's boxing him out.
Or being tipped to him.
Yes.
But you basically would have 4 guys going after the rebound, colliding, and the ball, one way or another, you're right, making its way out to Yuri, who was standing at about the free throw line every time. I can't tell you how many times he would corral the rebound, get his body around it, and start to bring the ball up the floor from that free throw line spot, with him getting the rebound. It was pretty fascinating, actually, how many times that happened. But yeah, when he had 6 that early in the game, I was kind of like, wow, this this is different. But if we're gonna rebound against a team that has that much more length, I think that's how it has to happen. And again, that's a testament to how Terrence Hargrove was playing. Somebody he gave up a lot of length to.
You know what? If we kind of went into the great parts of the game, and but I thought our defense was really good in spurts. But when it was bad, it made Walker Kessler look like an All-American. And I didn't think he was that good. I thought he was very Hassan French. Very much has no game outside of 5 feet.
So he was an All-American in high school. He was a 5-star recruit who went to UNC.
Well, I'm an idiot.
No, not at all. I mean, he's a 7-footer and 7'1", 7'2", whatever he is. And he was, coming out of high school, he legitimately was an All-American, 5-star. Didn't really show out at UNC. Transferred to Auburn, and even
that's why I remember his name. That's why his name's familiar.
Even here at Auburn, he's an 8 and 7 guy. You know what I mean? It's a team with a lot of depth and a lot of firepower. And a guy like Walker Kessler, who, we did make look pretty excellent, he's a starter who averages 8 and 7, which is really solid for a college center, but it is not All-American numbers.
More or less what I meant is that when he wasn't getting wide open dunks, he wasn't getting anything. I think there was one play where he went up and under, and I thought he traveled.
Yeah. So,
but other than that, I think all he had was they found we lost him, and that's a testament, I think, to Bruce Pearl and the Auburn offense.
He took a couple 3-pointers, and he's got a really ugly shot, and it was one that, as you saw, Linson gave him unlimited room to shoot it when he wanted in the first half, and then Okoro a little bit did, and I wish he would have kind of tried to shoot more of that because. Anytime they could get Linson or Okoro more often, especially in the second half, to kind of bite on something defensively, he had an ability to kind of slip behind him, and they ran that kind of mini lob to him. How many times? His arms are so long, you can throw it anywhere.
You don't have to be Yuri Collins
within kind of like a 6-foot radius of the rim, and he'll just put it away. So they would get Okoro to bite just a little bit, throw it behind him, and Kessler was there to scoop that up and throw it down every time. It became a long night for Okoro down the stretch.
Yeah, and I think that's where I get into the final 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And how bad we were, so bad on defense defending, and a lot of the night was Martin Linson. They made Martin Linson look not good on defense. He was not very good defensively against Auburn, and I think how bad we were even with Okoro in and how often they got to the rim, I felt as though if Martin Linson had not left the game, it hurt. That even though Martin Linson were giving something up on defense, his efficiency on offense. And the spots he would have been in, if he was in Okoro's spots that he got the ball, Martin Linson's either going to score those or he's going to get fouled with his craftiness. And he's going to go to the line and make two, most of the time, 2 shots.
Yeah, he's about an 80% shooter.
So I think a lot of that final 7 minutes was hamstrung in a way. And yes, we should not have slowed it down that early. I agree. But I think Martin Linson in the game, I think our offense runs a little bit better. And I think we come away with a win.
I
but
think
that's me.
We are in a position where it's kind of becoming clear they are really a 5-man by committee, a center by committee, whatever you want to call it. We don't have a guy who's going to play 28 minutes and another guy who's going to play 12, maybe, give or take some overlap there. They do very different things, the two of them. They play the same position, but we've now had games where one or the other was unavailable for the entirety of the second half because of illness or injury, and it's become clear you kind of need both. You kind of need to switch them in and out. There were times where Okoro was so clearly frustrated, either by a mistake he had made or a misread or a miscommunication. Not always his fault, but a couple times it was. and he was getting frustrated, and it's just the textbook situation where you take a guy out, talk to him, give him a few minutes, give him a breather, and we did not have the ability to do that because of Linson going out with an injury. It was frustrating to see. I think you're right. I think having Linson on the offensive end would have made a difference. But I also do want to backpedal on something a little bit, because I think Linson's defense in the first half was really good. It did help that the refs were not calling anything at that point in the game. And from where I was sitting, it looked like Linson got away with about 3 fouls. It was one of the rare occasions where after the first half I was like, all right, refs, thanks. I'll take it. I think we got the better of that half.
Yeah.
So I think he was actually doing a pretty good job when he was feeling stronger, had a little more wind early on in the game. So I'm not sure if we would have seen that in the second half or not, if he could still play.
We mentioned we mentioned Jabari Smith and the defense Hargrove played. I want to key in on a little bit more. I mean, what did you see from Hargrove that made him so effective? I mean, yeah, Jabari Smith, I believe he still got 13, but what did you see from Hargrove? Footwork, length, what do you think frustrated him?
Well, it wasn't length, but it was clear that Hargrove was just going to kind of be physical with him everywhere, kind of push him around a little bit. Once I think SLU saw that they could be physical on this team and really put a body on him anywhere, and stuff was not being called at all in the first half, Hargrove ran with that. And Smith, as good as he is, as smart as he is, as long as he is, he's pretty skinny. He's a guy you can kind of push around and talk about all those rebounds like we did a few minutes ago that wound up in Yuri Collins' hands. A lot of that is because Hargrove was just completely taking Smith out of position, or not out of position, but just keeping him away from the ball. So I really think it was physical, and this is a testament to the work that Hargrove has put in strength and conditioning the past couple of years.
You wonder if maybe that it was, that we did come out early and there was, 3-point shooting woes. We shot. I mean, they were clearly amped up. I think, yeah.
Yeah, they were rushing it a little bit too. The two that Jimerson shot in the first half that went like over the rim and hit the other side of the backboard, and ugly. But Jimerson loves to catch high, which I love.
Yes.
He's got a quick trigger. He catches high, releases instantly.
I'd love to see a chart of like where the ball was caught.
Yeah.
So like if you could have, let's say, have 3 levels, right?
Yeah.
Did he catch it here?
Yeah.
Did he catch it here? Or did he catch it here?
Yeah.
And what his percentages are at each level. That would be mind blowing to see, and I think I wish somebody could chart that.
I bet they would be fairly similar, honestly, because I think he shoots it pretty well, but he rushed both of those by just a split second, and the difference between those and the one that he hit in the second half, where he was already in his spot, he was rushing to get to a spot, and the combination of that and his kind of high catch, high release made him kind of rush it just a little bit. So I think that's what happened on those.
I think I went off the rails on what my point was supposed to be, was that I think Hargrove's defense, like it carried over his confidence into his offense in that game. I felt. Yeah. His ability to lock down on some level Jabari Smith, I think he carried that over and really put it. I love when he pulls up for a 2-pointer. Yeah. I love that play, like, because he never does it, and then he gets, if he did it like maybe a couple more times a game, I think it would be a big boost to the offense, and then maybe he gets guarded and maybe he can go around the guy. I don't know, but I'm growing in confidence with Hargrove. I think I've underestimated him for his entire career. I think I've pigeonholed him as an athlete, and I think he's starting to show that he is a basketball player.
Yeah, that was. I think you said it well. That's about as close to a complete game as we've seen from him. He's just made strides. He's always been an energy guy too, and you're right. Those do feed each other as they did last night.
We talked about 3-point shooting on the Billikens side. It was not good. Started one of we didn't make one in the first half.
Did not.
However, Auburn's 3-point shooting was the antithesis. Looking at they made so many shots that were just kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, and they kind of spread it out too. I think the guy who really killed us was Wendell Green. He was 3 of 6 from 3. Jabari Smith was actually 3 of 5, but his did not feel necessarily his back. Maybe I'm misremembering.
I feel like he got him in the first. He got him in the first half.
They were a little quieter, but the ones that Green hit were all devastating.
They were in big spots.
Number 24, that Berman guy hit one that was kind of tough in the second half.
Ugh.
And then I think Johnson and Jasper, they only had one apiece, but both of those were really well timed.
Yeah.
Auburn just. Ford said it after the game, and I do agree with him. I think there was a lot more to it, but they did come up with big shots when they needed them.
Let's get down to the last 7 minutes. This narrative that Travis Ford is a bad coach is a little unfounded, I think.
The narrative coming from where?
The message boards, the Twitter, but I think, you see, like, he was clearly orchestrating the Yuri Collins bounce pass to Linson. Like, he saw that Jimerson was in a space that Linson needed. Mm-hmm. He needed to pull his defender out at 3-point. He orchestrated Jimerson. So it's not as though Travis just says, "Go play, guys," like, right. and has his assistants do everything on the on-court coaching. He is a damn fine X's and O's coach. But I think the strategy in there. What do you think? What's your opinion on it? They took the air out of the ball with 7 minutes to go. They were up 12.
Yeah, 60 to 48.
Yeah, I think so.
So at the under 8 media timeout, we're up 60 to 48, and this big run because SLU's down 8 at halftime, mm-hmm. and now you're up 12. So that's a huge swing in not a whole lot of time. And they did this, hitting shots we're playing at pace, hitting shots in rhythm. All of those 3-pointers came not out of a slow, half-court, like grinding half-court offense. It came in rhythm. We really were feeding off the energy of the crowd, feeding off the energy of getting some defensive stops. And then, you come out of that under 8 media timeout, and all of a sudden, Collins is crossing the timeline already with the shot clock at 21. Actually, there was one time where he crossed the timeline. I don't know how many people saw it, but he barely got over in 10 seconds.
I didn't think he did.
And so the point is, we slowed it down. And then he crosses the timeline, and now not only have you burned 8 to 10 seconds of shot clock, you've got 4 guys who are just kind of standing around. Mm-hmm. And now you start the offense. And we had a lot of trips in this last 7-minute stretch where you get down, you burn basically the entire shot clock, get down to the last 4 or so seconds, throw up a crappy shot, and come away with nothing to show for it, only having burned clock. It's the kind of thing that I'm fine with if it's like under 3 minutes. If you're up 12 and it's under 3 minutes and you start doing that, burning 30 seconds is pretty meaningful. Mm-hmm. But when you're playing a team like Auburn that scores as fast as they do, as they showed us, because every time SLU would, either have a shot clock violation or they'd get a rebound off a crappy shot with 3 seconds left in the shot clock, Auburn would score within 6 seconds. Whether it was a lob to Kessler or a 3-pointer or whatever it was, they score so fast. And so we've just come up empty offensively, and they've burned almost no clock, and now we're trying to do the same thing again. And, a couple times we drew fouls out of that, but for the most part, we did not generate offense out of that. And I just think it was way too early to sort of go to that strategy at a high level.
Yeah, I think, and we were talking earlier, and I said to you, really, I think there's a time and there's a place for the strategy, right?
Yeah.
There's a time and place being that there's a time and 3 minutes to go. There's a place in a game like UAB and Belmont, right? That strategy is fine, even 5 minutes, But when you have number 13 Auburn at home on the ropes, Bruce Pearl's gonna have an aneurysm, like on the sidelines. He's like losing it, and you don't try to throw a haymaker. I think that's a mistake. I think the fan base would have been less upset with the Billikens going to just straight for the jugular, keep the run going, just run up and down, keep trying to push the pace. And if Auburn beats us that way, they beat us that way.
Yeah.
It is what it is. They come back and they score a lot and they win. It wasn't the right call. I think he shot his shot way too early with going into the stall.
So in other words, when you're playing a number 13 team and you're up and you've got a chance to win the thing, I think play to win. Don't play to lose.
You go for the knockout. You don't try to win by decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Somebody sent over to me a tweet where Doug Armstrong, the Blues general manager, had a quote back in 2014 about the St. Louis Blues playoff run in which they went up 2-0 and then lost 4 straight. We need that killer instinct. When you have a team down 2-0, you need to take the knife and jam it through their eye and into their brain and kill them. We don't do that. And I thought that was a perfect comparison. And how much of that killer instinct starts at the top with Travis and how much of that is something that can be cultivated on the court by the players?
Well, I think it's a whole culture thing, right? But it's the coach's decision to the pace at which you're playing. I think if we had kept running, quote unquote running, it's not like we were playing 40 minutes of hell, Nolan Richardson or anything like that. But if we were playing at the same pace as the previous 12 minutes of the half, I think it definitely feels that way, sure. But yeah, I think it's everybody. And again, it's so hard to think to watch these games and all of this happen and not wonder what it would be like to have Perkins in there as well, because he really is that kind of assassin-like scorer that you can give it to and is going to make that play. And the guy who we thought was going to score 20-plus points a game this season, we just don't have him. So there's that, too. I sort of wonder how much of playing this more conservative style down the stretch and not really protecting leads goes hand in hand with not having your killer closer.
A confidence level in the guys that are on the court, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not the player's confidence level. It's the confidence level that Travis has in his players to make those closing plays. Do you think that's something that could be an issue?
It could be. I mean, and maybe that's part of not having Perkins too. I really don't know.
I mean, this team like we can he and haw about these games that we're dropping, giving up, leads, but at the end of the day, this roster was not built to be played as is.
Right.
It's a process, and the only hope is that that Linson is fine. Yeah. We're praying for that, and then that this team pulls it together for A10 play. And speaking of A10 play, where do you see this team? You've seen some A10 games. You've seen the top, the Bonaventure play. You've seen VCU play. They're getting Ace Baldwin back. Or what's?
Yeah.
Yeah, they got Ace Baldwin back. Dayton has been up and down. We've talked about them nonstop.
Yeah.
Where do you see this team fitting in among the top of the conference?
Well,
Richmond doesn't look very good.
No, that's the thing. The conference does look winnable, and there's no question we've been battle tested. We've played teams that would win the A10. Auburn would win the A10. Memphis would win the A10. Belmont and UAB would very much be in the mix for this conference. So we've had plenty of tests against teams that would be at the top of this conference. And we're not going to see anybody with the combination of size and athleticism that either Memphis or Auburn had. So absolutely, we have the size, the athleticism, the ability, even without Perkins, to compete with the best of this conference. And we've got more depth than Bonaventure, who's considered the toast of the conference. So.
Speaking of toast of the conference, right now, don't look now, but Davidson and URI are both at 8-2 and 8-3 now.
Yeah.
Now
they're good.
Schedule.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
But they're on a Davidson's on a 7-game win streak. URI was won 2 in a row. Richmond's now won 5 in a row.
Yeah. So you got to look at all of them. You got to look at Bonaventure. You've got to consider VCU if they're getting healthy, even though they've had problems scoring. And there'll be a couple other teams that we're gonna have to worry about. Dayton, obviously, we talked about, has been up and down.
They're the only team in the A10 with a win over a ranked opponent.
Yeah, exactly. They could beat us by 20. They could lose to us by 20, and I don't think I'd be shocked by either result.
I hate Dayton so much.
I know. Yeah, that's just kind of who they are.
That's just the Atlantic 10 too.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a dumb conference in it. Like, you play SEC basketball, like you see that it has a style. The Big Ten has a style. Places like, I mean, even the one bid leagues have a style. Like, the A10 is just a bunch of like random teams thrown together that just happen to all be like private. Metropolitan. But there's no rhyme or reason to the style they might play.
You would think it would have a little more of an identity than it does, and it certainly doesn't.
Let's run down the conference from the past week. Monday night, George Washington beat Radford at home 67-58. Rhode Island went on the road to Milwaukee and won big 82-58. Wednesday night, VCU beat FAU, Florida Atlantic, 66-46. Friday night, Virginia Tech took down Bonaventure at the Hall of Fame shootout, 86-49. That game, that was a stinker for Bonaventure.
That's ugly. That's one that you always want your premier teams in a conference like ours, to pick off those kind of ACC, Big East, SEC games where we get them.
Mid to low.
Yeah.
It's always like it's weird. Like, those are my favorite games to bet too.
Yeah.
Because usually an A10 school will go in and win those games.
Right.
Like the mid-table ACC teams and the top Atlantic 10 teams, they'll usually, I think we Vegas overestimates the power conference.
Sure.
So those are usually my favorite to bet. Thank God I haven't been betting, because that would have lost me some money.
I bet a lot of people lost money on that one.
Yeah. Richmond went over to NC State. Well, actually, no. They were also in the Basketball Hall of Fame shootout, which was apparently A10 versus ACC. 83-74. NC State, I don't think they're as good as they have been.
Lost to SLU last year in a COVID-ravaged year where I think they only traveled like 7 to SLU.
Yes.
So I think if I remember, we beat them by 9. But hey, we'll take wins against NC State.
Absolutely. As we talked about, we talked ad nauseum. St. Louis loses to Auburn 74-70. We covered.
We did. Yeah, we did cover. What was it? Did it end up being 5? Was that the?
Yes,
I think
was.
That was the final
yes.
one.
Sorry, Kyle Cassidy. You did not win your bet. I apologize.
I do have one more.
I don't apologize. Actually, you should not bet against your former team.
I do have one more question about this game. Because it's now I'm remembering. He basically did not sub in the second half. We went
Ford?
We went with the lineup of. And when you look at the minutes, we've got 4 guys in the high 30s.
Wow.
We went with the lineup of Collins, Hargrove, Nesbit, Jimerson, Okoro for basically the whole second half. And we didn't see Thatch come back in. Linson obviously was hurt. We didn't see Jones come back in. I thought those were 2 guys who may have been able to give us a little something.
Jones is one of those guys that can make a 3 out of nowhere.
Right, or free throws at times where we need those.
Yes.
So I thought strategically in the second half there were times where some of those other guys would have made sense. We may have seen Thatch came in at like the very end. Like he was in the very, very end. But really we played almost the entire second half without subbing.
I mean, and tired legs too. You know, that
so
could have.
I wonder about that. Anyway.
Davidson beat Radford by 20 at home, 74-54. LaSalle went to Bucknell and lost by 12, 82-70.
Yep.
St. Joe's traveled to the Midwest. I didn't know they did that out of conference. 77-73, lost to Bradley. Ole Miss beats Dayton, because why the hell not? 76-68. George Mason beats Georgia on the road, 80-67. Kim English stands out in full force after that one, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State VCU was canceled. Duquesne beats UC Irvine by 22, 76-54 at home. UMass squeaks out an OT winner against Fairfield, 77-73. Richmond beats Old Dominion at home today, 67-61. And then Rhode Island and Charleston at the DC Holiday Hoops Fest was canceled. The A10 is just it's a demolition derby. I have no idea. It's a complete. There's no predicting anything.
Coming into the season, it seemed like people really needed, or if you're looking at the A10 as like a group of teams with the same common interests, as a lot of sports fans kind of do with their conferences now. It seems like fans wanted Bonaventure to be that team and really have a maybe one-loss non-conference schedule. And I think people expected SLU with Perkins to pick up some big wins in the non-conference. And things have obviously not gone as planned. Both teams have battled injuries. Ours may be a little more severe than theirs. So we don't really have that team that we can just kind of bank on. So we've picked up some nice wins as a conference, and man, have there been a lot of weird losses too.
Yeah, I can't with this conference. I mean, looking ahead, the Billikens have one game this week. They play Drake in Las Vegas on the 22nd. That's at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. So you can be a delinquent at work if you feel like it. It's going to be on Flow Hoops. The good news about Flow Hoops, though, everybody hates it.
Yeah.
So there's a million streams out there that are for free.
Yeah.
Not that I would ever endorse doing that.
If you are a person of low morals and want to find a bootleg stream,
it's not hard.
Yeah, you can find one.
Drake is 7-4. They're not. They had some hype coming into the season, did they not?
It was and it was mostly based on what they did last season. I think they were the team that started 18-0 last season.
That's right.
Not a great schedule, but still they beat everybody on it for a while anyway, and then lost a few down the stretch. And I think Ford implied last season that they kind of were the team that stood in our way of getting a possible at-large bid. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely a kind of chip on your shoulder factor here. I think 7-4 right now is probably a little behind where they wanted to be. They did have a transfer, a guard whose name I'm forgetting at the moment, went to Kansas, and he's playing something like 9 minutes a game there. But maybe his loss was a little bigger than they realized. He was a guy who wound up being kind of a stud for them last year, stepping in after an injury. But yeah, they've got a 73-70 win over Richmond, and then they've got a 5-point loss against Belmont.
One of our favorite opponents had a big game.
Yeah.
Musinski, 31 points.
Right. Yeah. That's so. I guess that kind of tells you, like, maybe in that 5 spot we've got a chance to feast a little bit there. But I don't know what Linson's status is going to be yet. We don't know anything on that yet.
We have no idea.
Right.
Led in scoring by Tucker DeVries, 13.9 points per game. DeVries and Tremel Murphy both shoot around 40% from 3, and Roman Penn will run the point for them. They really spread out the minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've got some depth. I think that was going to be regardless of how good or mediocre they were going to be this season, they clearly were going to go pretty deep.
Yeah, nobody averages 30 minutes or more on this team, and 8 players average at least 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
They're scoring 75.8 points per game, with a scoring margin of plus 7.6. Field goal percentage, are shooting 46% from the field. 3-point range, 38%. Pretty decent. They shoot it quite a bit. They make about 8 to 9 a game. They're shooting 72% from the line. They have a rebounding margin of 1.3, so they don't rebound particularly well. They keep the turnovers pretty low. They're plus 2 in turnover margin. I think you have to win this game first of all.
Yeah, they're a good shooting team. They're just kind of an efficient team everywhere. But yeah, they also don't do anything that necessarily scares you. You know, it's not like Auburn or Memphis where you look at like their length or ability or anything like that. They're just kind of a solid team, and no more, no less.
Moving over to the women's side, good news for Lisa Stone. Her talisman, Brooke Flowers, is back in the lineup, and she's got a double-double as the Billikens run UIC out of their own gym. Amazing that we went on the road to UIC.
We've played a lot of regional road games against lower conference teams.
I mean, this could have been a Julia Martinez homecoming game.
There's that
as
too.
Well.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately she's still out with a stress fracture. 75-49 win. It's UIC's probably the worst team in the Horizon League. 2-7 overall. They've already started their conference season. 1-3 in conference. One interesting note is they did start Gould again. She's still in the lineup, which I thought she would be coming from Arizona.
Yeah.
I just kind of assumed she would be a little bit more impactful earlier. We haven't seen much of that. Big out of this one was Marissa Warren's point guard play since taking over for Julia Martinez. She dished out 8 assists. Mm-hmm. Kaija Harbison was kind of so-so in this one. I mean, she got 10 points, but her numbers don't really jump off the page. Didn't make a 3-pointer. Kylie Bess was really nice in this one off the bench. 4 of 7 from 3-point range, which is always helpful.
Bess is kind of shown to be feast or famine. Mm-hmm. Like, it feels like every time she goes 4 of 7 from 3, the next game she'll go 0 of 3, 0 of 4, something like that. What I really like about this game is the 8 turnovers number. Yeah. We've had a couple games recently where we've seen this team kind of around the 20 turnover mark, give or take. So to have that down to 8 really shows the disparity between them and UIC here. Rebounding numbers were really, really nice. 42 rebounds for the Billikens, including 10 offensive boards. This team usually goes as the 3-point shooting goes, and this is kind of one of those that didn't necessarily follow that pattern. No, they just 30%, really spread it out.
Yeah. 30% from 3. It's a game against a bad team, and sometimes you need those to kind of right the ship, especially when you're getting your best player back from a concussion. Yeah, that's right. 5 players in double digits here, and everybody was between 10 and 15. So just a really solid team effort. Yeah, the only thing you see that second quarter and that fourth quarter, you go 0-6 in the second, 0-3 in the fourth. Cause for concern, but again, the fourth, the game was over probably by halftime as well. Right. So, next up for the Bills, actually, I believe tomorrow, the 20th. When this episode comes out, it will be the day. They will play Illinois State on ESPN 3. So that's weird. That's a weird setup where some people don't get ESPN3 that get ESPN. It doesn't come with ESPN Plus.
If it's a number or a U, it's on the networks, and that needs a login, a cable login, and not an ESPN Plus login.
11-point loss to Dayton for them, and a 9-point win at SIUE. Now that SIUE comparison doesn't really hold water because Brooke Flowers did not play in that game. So, hope check that one out while you're working in the background. Anything that we didn't go over with your trip or the Billikens versus Auburn.
I think we covered it all. I just wanted to. I was really impressed by that by the crowd for the Auburn home game. This was my first game in Chaifetz, I think, since right before the pandemic, which would have been that Dayton game that we lost.
Last time I saw the West Pine Bills guys was that game.
Yeah. So that was in January of 2020, right?
Yes.
Do I have my timing right?
No, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So January of 2020, and we lose to Dayton in that arena, in basically a full arena. So I've been to a couple really big, nearly sold out games in that arena that just went the wrong way, unfortunately. So I just want to see. Oh man, I wish we had won that game because I want to see us kind of build on the momentum of having a really nice crowd. Because we've for now almost 2 full years struggled to have crowds in there, and really want to see that momentum come back. So I hope people don't lose faith, given that we've had some
kind of brutal loss,
brutal
way of losing games.
Yeah, and that's been kind of a trend lately. So I don't want to see fans lose faith, and it just feels like this team, even without their number one scorer, is really
they're right
just
there.
Close.
Yeah.
They're just close.
I think you mentioned the kind of tough losses against big games, and Ben Fredrickson. Kind of a dumb take, I thought. Like, to write it after this game.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Travis Ford hasn't beaten a ranked opponent yet. And, okay, fine. But at the same time, after this game, this is the game you wanna bring that when you lose your one head of the two-headed monster in the front court in Martin Linson for the second half. And you don't have your All-American candidate in Perkins, and we're gonna, go off the rails and be, saying that the Billikens can't get over the hump. I
think, it's one of those sort of cherry-picked stats that's like once you pull that out and highlight it, you kind of go, yeah, while that's not great, you also have to consider at the same time that playing in the A10, we have very few cracks at ranked opponents. Very few. So I don't know what the number is that we've played since he's been here. I don't think it's a lot. It's probably obviously you'd want to have a couple of those by now, but that's not like, it's not like he should have 25 of them by now. If he had 2 or 3, it would look pretty great.
Yeah.
Based on how many of those teams were actually playing a season. So just to kind of highlight that. And I don't necessarily fault these guys for kind of looking at trends or moods or what's kind of going on.
You have to do content. Yeah. But to write something like this and cherry pick and then wonder why Billiken fans get annoyed.
Yeah.
With the local media, it's right. Kind of like, well, dude. But yeah.
And I haven't read much of their Mizzou coverage this year either. But I know Mizzou's just terrible, so I don't even know what that looks like.
That's fun for me.
SLU is a little frustrating, as opposed to being just abject terrible.
Yeah.
So there's that. As far as the local college basketball writing goes.
Pete, I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say I think this might be our most entertaining episode.
Oh, wow.
And most interesting to listen to. As far as, our normal episodes, not our interviews, because our interviews are super interesting in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because, we do them. But I think It's a shame that we can't do this more often, but I had a blast. I mean, it's great to have you in town, and hopefully we don't have to wait another another year or whatever to do another one in person.
Yeah, it's a different vibe for sure. Maybe we can start like a GoFundMe or something and get a nice little budget so we can fly back and forth and do every episode in person. Get Zach on the PJ for a Sunday night episode out in Cincinnati.
Oh yeah! Oh my God!
And whatever it takes, but it's just something for our listeners to think about if they want better content.
Yeah, I mean, I had in mind to go to the Tuesday night in Dayton, but I mean, I don't have to work. I mean, I don't have to go into the office, so. Other than Mondays, so this was a lot of fun, and it really felt as I said in the beginning, it was feeling disingenuous. It started feeling way more natural. It wasn't so much like, hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Zach. It wasn't that anymore. So no, this was a blast, and I hope our listeners enjoyed. And again, all the people that came, not all the people, a couple people that came up to me and said, hey, love what you're doing with the show. Keep it up. That's the kind of thing, that's the thing that keeps us going. Like, when you tell us to keep going, because we do this and we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome having people tell us that in the arena last night. It just, I don't know, it's cool. So thanks, spread the word, keep listening. We really, really appreciate, everybody who's listening, whether we know you or not. Thanks again, Tim, for the tickets last night. Good to see you, Larry. Good to see you, everybody I ran into at the game.
Absolutely, and again, shout out West Pine Bills.
Yeah.
For making it into town. Again, hopefully they get back sooner rather than later. And
right.
Thanks everybody for listening. Don't forget to follow us on all the social media. At Midtown Mad Pod on Twitter. That just keep retweet our stuff, reply to us, do all that. That all helps.
Let us know when we make mistakes, like we just did a few days ago by tweeting that a recruit was going to be in for this game, and he was actually in for the last game. And the reason I made that mistake, I tweeted it out on the 16th. I thought it was the 14th. So when I saw December 9th, I thought that was from Sunday or Monday. I didn't think it was from last Friday. Completely my fault. We did not have a big recruit at this Auburn game that I know of yet, but he was at the Boston College game, so at least he saw a win.
Also, shout out Aaron Hines, who I just ran into at the grocery store, which I should have been like, hey Aaron, you want to record an interview while we're at it?
Come on
over to the apartment.
My co-host is on his way.
Yeah, but again, thanks for listening. Go Bills.
Go Bills.